have some additional information regarding the officer-involved shooting that we had this morning. At 9:55 this morning, to recover some of the details, officers from our Civil Enforcement Unit responded to 7350 Blanding Boulevard to the Planners Walk Apartments to conduct a final eviction on an apartment unit over there. They had been out previously in the month on the 7th and posted the eviction notice on the apartment. So today they were going back to complete the eviction. When they arrived, they met with two maintenance folks that work in the apartment complex. They went with them to the apartment and entered the apartment. Once they entered the apartment, they found the apartment was actually empty and had been cleaned. They entered the apartment, began to do some paperwork with the two maintenance folks, and began to see a suspect walk on the back patio of the apartment. Now, it should be noted that the back patio of this shares a common patio with the apartment to the immediate left of it. So each apartment shares the patio and has a stairway that goes down to the ground. Each apartment also has a laundry room on the end of the apartment. So the suspect who they saw had walked over to the back patio, entered the laundry room, and then turned around and left. So at the second time that the suspects did this, one of the officers, Officer Sronsky, and he is a 25-year veteran with JSO, and he had with him 24-year veteran Troy Bloom. Officer Sronsky goes out to the laundry room to investigate. As he approaches the male out in the patio area, the male leans down and moves back a comforter that's on the ground. Contained in that comforter is a Smith & Wesson pistol, semi-automatic pistol. Suspect picks up that weapon and turns to Officer Sronsky and pushes the weapon into his chest. Now, I can't say if the suspect tried to fire that gun. The chamber of that gun happened to be empty. The magazine happened to be full. Something caused the two to separate, which I'll explain more in a minute. But the gun and the magazine were eventually in two separate pieces. So Officer Sronsky now begins to fight with the suspect and call for his backup. Officer Bloom moves inside, who also had begun to see what was going on the patio. The two come out and begin to wrestle the suspect for the gun. The suspect is able to break free of the two officers and runs down the stairway. Like I said, this apartment complex or unit has one stairway that goes down the back of the two units. The officers see him run down the stairway, and as they begin to move to pursue him, the suspect turns and faces them. Now, just seconds before, both of these officers are wrestling this suspect for a gun. What occurred was that somewhere in the course of wrestling for the gun, the suspect dropped the gun. However, these two officers were not aware of that. When they saw him turn, they not only feared for their life, but feared for the two civilian maintenance employees that were with them out in the patio area. So they elected to employ deadly force. They fired 6 shots at the suspect. The suspect ended up taking about another 10 steps and collapsed. Officer Sronsky fired 4 times, and Officer Bloom fired twice. The suspect was treated by Jacksonville Fire Rescue, who arrived at the scene. They announced that he was dead, and he was removed to the medical examiner's office. We have positively identified him as 28-year-old D'Angelo Stallworth, and he has a 2010 arrest record for battery on a pregnant female. This afternoon, I made comments that there was marijuana in that same comforter and blanket that was out there on the porch. That was 126.8 grams of marijuana that was in that blanket. Some of the demonstrative aids here show the marijuana in its packaging in the comforter, marijuana in its packaging with the scale, so you can see how large it is. This is the firearm that was recovered from the patio, and the magazine from the firearm that was recovered at the base of the steps. Our autopsy is scheduled for tomorrow. That will be conducted by the medical examiner's office, and as information comes from that, I can share that information as well. There has been speculation that the suspect was shot 6 times in the back. I'm not in the business of speculation or trying to answer to speculation. We do protracted investigations, and we get out as quick as we can with the facts that we have, and that's what we do, is we deal with facts, not speculation. Facts in this case come that the suspect was shot at least, and I saw this with my own eyes, once in the right upper thigh to the front of his thigh, and once in the right flank area in the ribs on his side. Now, tomorrow at autopsy, there may be more shots that are found, but again, this is about facts, not conjecture. Saw those with my own eyes, and we may learn more tomorrow, but that's what we've seen tonight. other information can be obtained, or other information was obtained by 2 civilian witnesses who were inside the apartment, whose lives were also at risk by the actions of Mr. Stallworth this afternoon. And they are the information that we use to come up with the facts that we have. I can answer a few questions if anybody has any.
Would there be a reason as to why he had a gun and came towards your officer? Would there be a reason for that? Why he pushed it in your officer's chest?
It's hard to come up, and again, like I've just said, I deal with more facts than I deal with conjecture, and there would be some conjecture with that. Where he retrieved the gun from, you see a pretty decent amount of marijuana. I mentioned this afternoon it may have been packaged to sale. Looking at it a little bit closer, it maybe wasn't packaged for sale. These are individual buds that are broken off, and 126 grams is a pretty good amount of weight of marijuana. That's where he had his gun, so yeah, if you make kind of a leap there that his gun was where his marijuana was, that would be a pretty good reason to assume that maybe he wouldn't want the police to find that. He realized, I guess, at some point that the police were there for the eviction. But again, these are conjecture, not facts.
So if I understand it right, the officers were still at the top of the stairs, and he had gone down that back stairwell. And if I understand you correctly, the officers have said in the investigation thus far that they were unaware that the weapon had been dropped or tossed in the scuffle between them.
Correct. From the early information that we have, and keep in mind, when we deal with these officer-involved shootings, I can't compel answers out of my officers who are involved in shootings, and I have to get some information from the attorney, which they speak to, which proffers information to us without going into a whole lot of details. But that's where we're getting that information from. So yeah, that's what we've got. Is that, and keep in mind, these are within seconds that these incidents are happening, and he breaks free and runs down. They're physiological factors that once you're under stress like that hit the human body. So they may not have heard that gun hit the ground. They may not have realized he dropped it or threw it down. And then the next thing they know, they're watching him turn towards them. Reasonable, prudent officers may believe that their life's in danger. Plus, not only their lives, but they've got the 2 maintenance workers who are right there in the same line of fire that they could be. This Mr. Stallworth has already shown a propensity to retrieve a gun in front of 2 police officers, to pick it up, to point it at the officer. And not just that, he's going to shove it where the officer actually gave history that he felt the gun touch him in the chest. Again, facts, not conjecture. I don't know what his intent was. Did he pull the trigger? I don't know if we'll ever know, but I do know what the officers have told me and what my 2 eyewitnesses relate as well.
How big is that back porch area? We in hearing kind of what you were able to give us this morning, I thought it was uncommon that a suspect with a weapon would be able to even get that close to an officer in proximity, from a proximity standpoint.
It's maybe 4 feet wide by 9 feet long, somewhere like that, maybe a little closer. Again, one side of it is a laundry room. Both doors were open to that laundry room. And Mr. Stallworth knew what he was doing as he's reaching down to the comforter. He knew that there was a firearm there. He had the intent to pick it up. Our officers weren't aware of what was in there. And until he picked it up, they weren't able to react until he acted.
And the comforter was in the laundry room or
kind of inside and outside.
Okay.
Of see part of it here, but yeah, that's generally on the ground.
Okay, and the 2 maintenance guys are the only witnesses that saw the whole thing happen?
Yeah, there's only 2 that we're aware of. Now,
okay.
Obviously, if there's other people out there who actually eyewitnessed this, and not hearing talk in an apartment complex and not hearing social media come out, but somebody who's actually an eyewitness to what happened, again, this is fact-based and fact-driven. If there's a fact that's out there, I want to know it. I want to be aware of it. You can remain anonymous through Crime Stoppers or call the sheriff's office, but if there's facts out there, our job is to gather them, no matter where they come from.
Okay, and the fact that the officers both feared for their lives, we got that from their attorneys who they spoke to?
They were proffered from their attorneys.
Okay.
Any other questions?
And that gun was at the top of the stairs, right? And that was at the bottom of the
This
stairs.
firearm was at the top of the stairs. The magazine that goes to it was at the base of the stairs.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Director.
Have those maintenance workers been cooperative with you guys, Director? Very.